Generally, Ghanaians are not good people. You will not believe what they can do to you. And it's painful when someone that you're trying to help really turns around to stab you in the back.
So you built this great business, raising UT from a $20,000 backwater office, literally, to $90 million market cap on the GSE, with almost like $500 million plus in assets. And how about that taken from you? Now you have a foundation. What a life.
I almost quit because I was looking for big money and I couldn't get. So in my life, for example, I don't burn bridges. I abandon bridges. And I said, for all that I'm going through, is this what you can do for me? But I had 2 lives. And people say, how did you make it? I threw away my speech and spoke from my heart. And I did all the foolish things. In Nkrumah's time, everything was there. We took it for granted. And it's sad that after all the investment in us, we grew up and we came to superintend over all the rot in the system, which is caused mostly by us. And therefore, I literally walked out of the armed forces. I had to make a choice between my wife and the kids. And then I walked into another marriage with my kids. I love people. It's as simple as that. And when I see people, I'm looking at how I can help if they need my help. It was never that we wanted to become a bank. Never. The first problem, by far, was that we lost our culture.
At some point, you decided to step down as CEO.
Monday morning, I heard that the government had shut down UT Bank and Capital Bank. And I said, okay.
Hello, community. This episode might be a surprise episode, particularly because, when we decided to start the book reading club, we were trying to explore the journey of Captain Kofi Amoabeng. But yeah, this episode is with him, the man in person, and what a conversation. For me, so many great takeaways. A very eerie feeling. It's very similar. The feeling I had speaking with him was similar to the conversation I had with Ebenezer Ghani, the young man who built WeWire. And just so many stories and just a drive and an inspiration to do more. I don't want to take much of your time. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. The mantra remains, just build something. Captain, thanks for coming. When I was coming here this morning, I called my dad and I was telling him I was excited that I'm speaking to Captain Amoabeng. And he was like, Bill, do you remember just last year, around the same time last year, I was watching my dad had come to visit me. So I was watching your interview at Stanford Seed. You went to give a talk there. Yeah. And I was telling my dad that I really would like to speak to this man one day. Just a year ago. I think around the time we just started recording on the podcast. And to see it play out around the same time this year, it's interesting. And I can't voice out the privilege enough.
No, it's my pleasure to be here. I mean, I've resolved to share all that is in me for the benefit of the younger generation, so they'll watch the pitfalls and ride on the highs and give them the true story that I have. So I really, really can't say no to you guys, and I have to make time to make sure that I share my experiences.
Yeah. And for me, I think up until like a few months ago, you were this interesting character in a book for me. I think you probably deserve like a movie adoption of the book. I've read like 1 and 2. I'm yet to read 3.
It comes up every so often. But I haven't given it a serious consideration because it's even gone international. I mean, there's a guy who's a Ghanaian filmmaker in Belgium, and he reached out to me and said he wants to make a film out of it. And I said, I will not play a part in it. If I have to don military attire and go through the bush and all those things, I guess it will be a bit much. But maybe
it really does deserve a movie adoption. And I think as a podcast, we formed a community, a book reading community. And then this book is the first book we are reading, this series of books. So this goes a long way for us. But what a life you've lived. What a life you have lived. Like,
oh yeah.
72 now.
73.
73 now.
Yeah.
You don't look 73, by the way. Yeah. 73 from Nkrumah, Adisadel College, St. Peter's, and going to the military and going into business, Jam House and UT, and raising UT from a $20,000 backwater office, literally, to $90 million market cap on the GSE, owning a bank, in the holding company with almost like $500 million plus in assets, and have all that taken from you, and now you have a foundation. What a life! It's unreal, you know. And hopefully we get to unpack various strands of the life you've lived, you know. And also for me, I think reading your books, one of the big forces that I could really relate to was your relationship with your dad, right? That your dad was like a big force, a big part in who you became as a person, as a young man. And I could relate to that. I'm grateful that I have a dad who's like a friend, you know. No filters between us. I can tell him anything. And so I want to ride on that with you, back to Kuku and to me. That young man who was very boisterous and troublesome and had this dad. And then how he has guided you, how that upbringing was, your interaction with your grandmother, who was another guiding force in your life. And this was something I've really realized talking to founders and business people and entrepreneurs, and it's like they almost always interface with their grandparents. Half of them were raised by their grandparents, and I don't know where that correlation comes from. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I think grandparents have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that nowadays, because of social media, whatever, grandparents come home and kids don't even have time and they think they're a nuisance. But I think grandparents have love and they have a lot of experience and they know what they've missed and they try to put that in kids very early. In my institution, for some reason, even though I went to a school like Penworth, which was like GIS at the time, and my mates would go on holidays in UK, I preferred going to my grandmom's village, which is called Hema, or used to be called Fanchiniko. That's where I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed my grandmother's presence and company and a whole lot of things. But then she will go to church with me every morning. By, say, 4:30, we're heading to church. We come home about 6 o'clock. And I found it exciting, the singing, the dancing. My grandma would dance and I would dance behind her. And we leave the church and everyone greets everybody and we're all smiling and I'll ask any question and she has time. And so that's where I think I had my teeth cut when it comes to being spiritual and the values of loving people and wanting to do good to people. I think it came very early. But you know, all of us, we sort of, it's easier learning when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And it stays with you. You know, so I think that is where, even though I became boisterous and all those things, the underlying values were there for my grandmom. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that people who stay with their grandmothers or grandparents actually get the right values, which propels them to actually build institutions that will help people and so on and so forth. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
That's true. And so, like I said, you are going through the book. And understand that came to the books. I understand that came to me. I think you had this conversation with Kofi Day. And then that's how I actually got to know about your grandmother and the dynamic you had with her. And then also your father. So you're this interesting blend of your father's influence on your grandmother. Your grandmother
and
represents...
my mother.
And your mother.
Yeah.
Okay. It's your grandmother represents this groundedness and, you know, the faith and values. Your dad seems like he was drawn to the more gayer things of life, even though...
Yeah, he was a realist. And no nonsense man. And he saw the world as it is.
Yeah.
The really hard facts. He was a bit selfish, I may say, for lack of a better word, because he left home for maybe about, God knows, 10 years.
Yeah.
And got married and had 3 kids and came back and wouldn't even apologize.
Yeah.
And we had beautiful conversations. I mean, he gave me all the apologies, what happened and why he did what he did and so on and so forth. But no apologies. I mean, the guy is caught with a girlfriend and he asked my mom, which one would you prefer, that I marry a second one or I keep you as the only one and take a girlfriend? He was hard,
Yeah.
but down to earth,
Yeah.
So that's what I learned from him. My mother was had a lot of patience, but calculated patience, in the sense that when my dad left her, for example, for about 10 years, she still stayed put and stayed in the house in Nkrumah and organized the house and looked after us, had time for her. My father wasn't there.
Yeah.
So she assumed the role of both father and mother. And she was tolerant, but strict. There were times that we were afraid of her, but then when my dad came and everything, and she just stayed and, and continued with her marriage. And I think from her, what I probably took was a lot of resilience and say, when something happens, it happened. Move forward. So in my life, for example, I don't burn bridges. I abandon bridges. If the bridge needs to be burned down, I won't burn it down. I may come back to it, but then it will require a lot. So I abandon that. If I have to swim, I'll swim. I won't use the bridge. That's my attitude to life. My mom was like that. My grandmother was more forgiving and make amends. My mom wasn't that forgiving, but he had the resilience to stay away from certain things and then move on with their life and wouldn't burn bridges.
Yeah.
So I had three people that influenced my life.
Yeah.
My grandmother, my dad,
and your mother.
and then my mother. And incidentally, my dad was a money lender.
I see.
At somewhere in Accra called Koliwoku.
Okay.
Very close to actually where I started Unique Trust.
Unit trust.
So life has...
Funny.
So when I told my mom that, now I'm doing something in Accra, I said, what? I said, I'm lending money. She said, I said, what? I said, lending money. I said, where? I said, Accra, around Kantamatu. I said, Rade. So that's what you were going to do in the long run, because that was your dad's job.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
But what was your dad doing?
My dad was a hustler. He was okay. I mean, when I was born, he was a cocoa buying clerk.
Okay.
And he was based at Bosusu. And he was okay. I mean, he was in charge of the warehouses. And he was moved, or I don't know what happened, but at least he was working for cooperatives at the time under the Nkrumah Regime. And then, don't know what happened. Either something was found, some fault was found with him or whatever. All of a sudden, he didn't have a job. And we came back to Nkrumah. And interesting enough, when he came back to Nkrumah, at some point, he was hiring bicycle for a living. For somebody who had started a house, and, So then,
I really like him.
Then he moved on and got appointed in Takoradi, again in cocoa business, but at the port. So you could realize that it was a good appointment.
Yeah.
And he bought a car and started living a good life and everything. Then he was posted to Kumasi. Then all of a sudden, he didn't have a job. And he came to Accra to team up with his brother and then started money lending. But one thing about my dad was that because he was denied quality education, even though he was brilliant, he had sworn to himself that he would give his son, that is myself, the best possible education. So he paid at whatever level to let me go through to the best schools. As I said, I went to Penworth Preparatory, which was like GIS of today.
Yeah.
And I remember we were paying the fees of £27.10. It was outrageous. And then from there, I went to Adisadel, which is one of the best schools, then to St. Peter, one of the best schools, and I went to school of administration, and then somehow I found myself in the army.
There's this story you talk about your dad. Said your dad had this friend of a professor.
Yeah.
And he said your dad used to tell you he was really good at math. He was very brilliant at math. And then he told you can ask my friend here.
Yeah. And that was Professor Odru, who was head of anesthetics at Kolebu at the time.
Yeah.
And he said, you don't believe me? Ask Professor Odru if he could actually, match me in maths. And he said, ask for a dad, He was brilliant in maths and things. Unfortunately, he couldn't continue and things like that. So, Yeah.
So talking about deciding to afford you quality education as a father, like you mentioned, you went to Penworth. There's a kind of exposure. I mean, if it was the GIs of the day, meeting all these like international people from all walks of life, various kids, kids who are going to vacation in the UK.
Yeah.
There's this huge exposure there. From there, you go to Adisadel College. I'm interested in that. What happened at Adisadel College? Hello, friends. So, sorry to interrupt you. I know you're enjoying this conversation, and I'm so sorry about rudely interrupting you. But then it's come to our attention that about 82% of you guys who consume our content have not subscribed. Your subscription goes a long way to help us and encourages us as a team to keep bringing you what we bring you every week. So just do us a little favor. Hit the subscribe button, share, and if possible, comment. Thank you.
A lot. Adisadel College is a very, very interesting school.
Yeah.
It's one of the best schools in the whole of Africa. That's what
I would agree. I mean, well, I wouldn't back that. No better than
it was an
St. Augustine's
eye-opener.
College,
So when
though.
I got to Adisadel at the time, I mean, it was a huge school. I mean, for where I was coming from. And, the standards were very high. First year, you are introduced to all kinds of sports. Hockey, cricket, and then gymnastics with trampolines, and basketball in the gym. Everything was there. So I almost lost track a little bit because I got so excited and I was playing and wasn't learning and things. And then my position in class second term was about 20 or something, which had never happened. And it was a disappointment for my dad because I remember he held my hand. I think he wanted to beat me, but I decided, no, he won't beat me. And looked straight into my eyes, and his eyes were red. I'll never forget that. And he said, for all that I'm going through, is this what you can do for me?
Wow.
And I said, it will never happen again. And that is when I formed a bond with my dad. It's like, I must learn for this man.
Yeah.
I was never learning for myself. I didn't think I needed it for myself. And that is what kept me on track. Because I'll do all the bad things. 2 weeks or a week to exam, I devote that period to learn hard, burn candle and everything, take sleepless tablets, and learn and get a good grade. And then he'll be happy, and I'm happy. And it's also because I cherish the friendship.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do anything that will let me lose that relationship with him. And then at some point, they said we should bind ourselves with a contract. I said, what are contract? I said, the contract is that I will pay your fees no matter what. You make sure that you're in the best five or something like that. And I said, well, that one is easy. Oh, best five.
Yeah.
So we shook hands on it. And I had to keep my part of the contract. Then I became his friend. We started drinking. We started talking everything. And by the time, anytime, for example, by the time I vacate and get home, he's waiting for me in the office. As soon as I get there, he shuts the office door and says, I've been waiting for you, let's go. And we go and we start drinking, and he will brief me about people who had died and the things in the house and all sort of things.
Yeah.
And I also brief him about school, what's happening and things. But I had two lives. Between me and my dad, I was a perfect son. Between me and the school, I was something else. Because I used to do all the things that, normal Santa Clausians do. And I was also in a house that had a tradition. I was in Jubilee House.
Okay.
And Jubilee House was a funny house because they had one Jubilee House, the school, when I decided, was 50 years. Then Jubilee House was built. That was in 1960. And therefore, the other houses, existing houses, were asked to nominate people to form Jubilee House.
Yeah.
And of course, the House prefects nominated the people they couldn't control.
Oh.
So all those who started Jubilee House were the wrong guy. So I'm sure up to today, Jubilee House name is still something else.
Yeah.
Because it's become a tradition. So I had two lives. I had a good life with my father, my parents, but when I go to school, I was something else. But then, notwithstanding all that, I will make sure I pass and pass well for my dad. So a lot of my mates actually fell by the roadside. And people say, how did you make it? This guy and that, this was a friend. But I had a motivator in the form of my dad.
That's interesting. There's a story I gathered at Adisadel College. You represent Adisadel in a national science or some
Yeah, okay.
national mathematics
Yeah.
exam, something like that.
That was interesting. I was good at maths, but I wasn't the best in Adisadel.
Yeah.
I was probably in the top 6 when it comes to maths. So those days they organized national maths quiz,
Okay.
but it was individual. So Adisadel would bring their best people, Fansipem, Achimota, whatever, and we take the same paper. Now when our maths teacher was choosing the people to take this, she looked at me and said, Prince, I think you should join them. I said, no, the whole Ghana, what kind of waste of time? I said, no, you just join them.
Yeah.
So, small persuasion, I joined. And I wasn't even serious about it. I went to my math set, which was empty, and sat there, and I was reading the questions. I said, why do they set foolish questions like this? Because all this information is not necessary. That was what I was thinking to myself. So I took my pen, started crossing all sort of information in the paper. Then I started answering questions. Long story short, I answered 7 questions, and then did a good job on 2. And then the third one, the last one, I just left it. And I wasn't expecting anything. And went home after holidays. I go back, this was 1968. I go back and asked, the bus came and I took my box out of the bag in where we call Katanga, because it was Jubilee, Kweku, and Agrombi, 3 houses in Katanga. So they saw me come and take my boxes out, and the whole place went, hey, and I'm saying, I know I'm popular, but I mean, if I come with them, and people were cheering and waving and things, and I said, what's the matter? They said, oh, you haven't? I said, no. He said, you won the National Maths Quiz. And, well, you know me, things, it's okay, but I don't get overexcited.
Yeah.
And I was given a book by National Maths Association or something like that. And I decided to make the best of it because speech day, and we had some Anglican bishop visiting, and they issued a prize for me again and things. So, yeah, that's about it. I think it's probably the highlight of my stay in Adisadel, my journey in Adisadel.
This is a very separate question. You mentioned this is 1968. I'm just curious. Anytime I speak to people who lived in the 60s, it's just a very curious question I want to ask. 1968, Nkrumah was overthrown in 66.
Yeah.
So the NLC was in power.
Yeah.
What was the landscape looking like in the country? What was the atmosphere like around that time?
You know, those days, certainly we didn't understand Nkrumah in so many ways. For example, in Nkrumah's time, French was compulsory in all secondary schools. And when he was overthrown, then they cancelled it. It's sad, because he realized that around Ghana are these French-speaking people, and you need a second language, and he's thinking about maybe Africa coming together, therefore you need French and English.
Yeah.
It was lost on us. So as soon as, and I was very bad in French, as soon as he was overthrown, we started jubilating. I mean, that we are not going to do French again. And sadly enough, in my business journey, I was working for a French company. Luckily, they all spoke English, but it would have been such an advantage, you know.
If you speak French.
So, to your question, in Nkrumah's time, we felt that things were being forced on us. But the school, you had everything. 3 solid square meals a day, with all sort of, and solid meal is solid meal. You had your jollofs, you had your sweet after meals, and stuff like that. We had a cadet corps. I didn't join the cadet corps, but cadet corps, they were giving extra meals, and the facilities, like everything. So fast forward, the last time I went to Adisadel as a guest speaker or something like that, they were inaugurating KVIPs. And I said, here. I mean, when I was here those days, WCs were the norm, and they were in abundance. And so many years after, at Adisadel College, They're commissioning some old students, year group were commissioning KVIPs and we're making noise about that. I said, listen, don't you see you're going back? From WCs, we are now making noise and celebrating KVIPs. And that's the story about the whole of Ghana. And I remember that time when I was a guest speaker, I threw away my speech and spoke from my heart. And I said, I decided I came to meet, and I decided that I left. What happened to it? I decided the Kukuratumi boy, wide-eyed boy came to meet, is gone. And I said, if Adisadel is like this, what about lesser schools? So in Nkrumah's time, everything was there. We took it for granted. I mean, he invested in the people, he invested in education, he invested in health, he invested in roads. There were no potholes. I was coming from Nkrumah to Takoradi to Cape Coast. You won't experience any pothole. And no, what do you call it? No traffic jam, nothing. And then see what we are going through now.
Yeah.
So Nkrumah's time was complete different time generation. And then with time, we started losing it.
Went away.
And then now it's pathetic.
You've been a big voice on leadership on the African continent. And I think even to take action in that regard, you started the foundation, the Kofi Amoabeng Leadership Foundation. I think that's really brilliant. And hopefully we touch on that as we are talking, as we go along. So brings me to the point. Okay, so this maths enthusiast, you are really excited about Adisadel College, but at some point you jump ship and you go to PESCO, St. Peter's.
I'm someone who reflects a lot, and I reflect on myself and say, am I doing something right?
Funny enough, that's what I wrote about you. That I think you're a very reflective human being.
Yeah.
Like you've reinvented yourself so much, and every time there's a certain point of reflection.
Yeah. I knew if I had gone back to Adisadel, I probably could have gone to university. And in hindsight, I was completely right. Because my mates, who were as bright as I was, or even better, missed the boat when it came to university. But for me, it was a simple decision. We were staying out, going to girls' school, drinking, and doing all sorts of things. And I looked at myself and said, the way this is going, if I pass O-level, certain A-level, I'm going to fail. Then luckily my cousin, who was at a private secondary school, we were just discussing, and he says, there's this school in Kwatia, okay. St. Peter's School. Every year they get 100%. I said, 100% what? He said, they all go to university. I said, really? He said, yes. So if I'm able to enter that school, I'm going to university. And I said, that does it for me. So then I chose St. Peter's School. And because I'd won the maths prize and other things, I was a jewel for Adisadel. So the headmaster called me 3 times. And I looked at him and I said, you shouldn't worry me now, I won't go to 6th form. My father said I should come and work with him, which was a lie. And that's why, how come he left me and said, well, if you're not going to 6th form, then of course. And therefore I went to St. Peter's School. I must say when I got there initially, because of where I was coming from, I was disappointed. Because I got there and I looked at facilities not as comprehensive as Adisadel. For example, they had one big building which housed all the houses. And I was used to, a house was a complete building.
Yeah.
So I said, where are your houses? And they said, that is it. I said, okay, how many houses are there for? I said, okay, 4 of those big ones, not bad. And I said, they're all in that one. I said, what kind of house system is this?
That's like a dormitory in Adisadel.
Then I knew that in Cape Coast, lower 6 was for high time. When you're lower 6, you don't learn. You just have a good time. And then I go to the first step, lower 6, and these guys were learning in the bushes. St. Peter's. Hey. So I asked them, I said, are we all going to take the same A-level? What we are taking is what I decided people were going to take. And so I was odd, and people found me completely odd. To the point at one stage, my mates came to see me and said, I have to back up because they're afraid I will spoil the school's record. And I looked at them and I said, you know I'm from Nkrumah. They said yes. And then I went to Cape Coast, said yes. And then I've come here. I said, you think I need your advice? I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
They said, oh, but I was last in economics every paper. Every week we had an exam and I was last. It was because I'd never done economics before, but I didn't like chemistry.
Yeah.
So when I got to St. Peter's and I realized that I could switch and do physics, maths, and economics,
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'll drop chemistry, which at the time was a wrong decision because then it means I couldn't do engineering, which was like my natural path. So after sixth form, I couldn't go to tech, and school administration were anxious to take me because I had maths and I had economics. And that changed my trajectory completely.
Because I was going to ask about that, because I mean, very heavy, science heavy background, math, top of the class in math and stuff like that. And so I was wondering, okay, why did you decide to do business? But now it's like, okay, well, circumstances.
Yeah. It was, I didn't think through that. And it's just because I felt chemistry wasn't right for me. Because at the time, O-level chemistry, H2O is water. And I remember I asked my teacher, I said, why is it that H2O is water and not H4O3? Why? That didn't make sense to me. And then he said, why is it that you are called Kofi Amoabeng, you are not called anything else? So it may take it.
Yeah.
And I wanted things that were logical.
Yeah.
Not just chew and pour. You know, that was the problem. So when I got to sixth form, then I changed.
There's something about that. Something you said about how, remember when you were with Jam House, you had this oil contract with these people, and you're going to bid for a contract. It's one lesson I think I've gotten for myself, learning to break complex things down to like the very simplest thing, so you can communicate it. It just makes life easier, you know. And so for me, one of the things I really highlighted, that break things down.
Yeah.
If you can explain it to yourself,
Yeah.
you know. Anyway, so you go to University of Ghana, you study business. You had a good time.
I had a really good time. You know why?
Yeah.
It's because mostly they were arts students who went to school administration. And then we had quantitative techniques, which took probably 60% of their time because it was tough for them. And that quantitative techniques was below A-level maths.
Oh, okay.
So what would take 60% of their time, I just wrote through it. And actually, how I learned was they would bring the problem for me and I solve for them, my mates. So it was easy. I didn't learn much. I just did a bit of marketing and management and whatever, accounting and quantitative techniques. Certainly I was on top of it. So it was a walk through the park and I ended up with second class upper.
Yeah.
So university for me was the cheapest run through of my life. Just went through 3 years. And I did all the foolish things. I mean, we would ransack the cafeteria, we would do all sorts of things, just for fun.
Yeah.
And when I talk about the university, it looks like the young people can't even believe me. In actual fact, a mate of mine had forgotten that we had lifts in the annexes. After I said it on some kind of program, he called me and said, Kofi, I think you said too much, but you are saying that when we were in university, there were lifts. I said, you wrote that lift. He said, I think I forgot. I said, how can you forget? I mean, so bad that you can forget. But things were, we had 3 square meals a day, we had ice creams, we had options.
In a university?
Here, University of Ghana. Not only that, we had proper entertainment. For example, Fela Anikulapo Kuti performed at cafeteria. B.B. King of Blues, performed at the Great Hall. I'm only telling things that is unimaginable. I mean, people are queuing for Banku or Whitey somewhere around cafeteria. And 3 square meals with options. You get there and say, maybe I don't like cocoa, I like oats, I don't like sausage, I like that. Afternoon time, you don't probably like chicken and salad, so you want yam and palava sauce. You had options. Then you had those people who even were on special diet. And then there was free coffee and tea that you come with your flask and you take and go to your room. Even tech was worse. I remember we at Legon, if we should vacate 2-3 days before tech, we rushed to tech. I used to do that. Because tech, you have your breakfast, which spans a long time. You have your lunch, you have your dinner. And they will send coffee and cake and things to the departments. Yes, Ghana University. And you were paid. They paid you to enjoy all those facilities. And of course, that was soon after Nkrumah's time. That Nkrumah instituted all those things during his time, and we carried on. I went to university in 1971, and it was still there. You were paid, and it was a lot of money by those standards. 100 cedis a year. And that 100 cedis could buy a whole lot, and it's supposed to buy books and stuff for you for life to be, easy for you. And we rode on it. I remember when after lunch and ice cream, I walked to Opunglu and X2, that is Sabah and X2, and the lift wasn't working. And I looked at the portal and I said, how come the lift is not working? What use? What's your use here?
Yeah.
And so he had called UTC at the time, and they were coming. And they would normally rush with a pickup because they know our reaction. And we started making noise, the ground floor and the JCR. And I remember saying that the government, because I'm intelligent, the government has brought me here to use my brain and not to walk upstairs. I am not going. And then we started making noise and things like that.
Such a troublesome man.
After about maybe an hour, the pickup came, they fixed the lift. And I looked at the porter and I said, you foolish man. You know which floor I was going to?
Second floor.
Second floor.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't I didn't go to second floor. No, I won't climb the stairs.
Yeah.
That's not why I came to the university. I came to use my brains. That's what I told them. I mean, we're spoiled in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad that after all the investment in us, we grew up and we came to superintend over all the rot in the system, which is caused mostly by us. But of course, there's a reason for it. The thing is, how we were brought up or what was invested in us, it raises your expectation and things. And if the system cannot sustain it, you turn on the system.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. But university at the time was heaven.
It's like bringing a lion, a cub into your house as a pet, and you feed it and gets bigger and bigger, and then at some point when you can't, it eats you up.
It will chop you up.
That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah.
But then the flip side, wouldn't the flip argument be that, well, because this was how things used to be for you, if you're in a place of leadership as a generation, you would want to make sure that these are the same standards the people who come after you enjoy.
Yeah, but from where? The country hasn't got the resources. And individuals have even lost the values and they are stealing. There's corruption. So whatever the country gets, they are siphoning it out into their own private accounts and whatever. So we still simply haven't got it. I mean, it's not as if we enjoy the bad route, but the monies are not there. And I think we are not also realistic about it. Sometimes I have my problem with how we want to solve things. We want to still give them away for free. The free times are gone.
Yes.
Let me diverse a little bit. Let's take our Kumasi Road, which used to be, say, 2.5 hours. Now, if you can go to Kumasi within 6.5, 7 hours, you are lucky. Plus the bad road and everything. We are still thinking of tolls in the region of 5 cities, 10 cities. No. I think I will be, myself, and any reasonable person will be happy to pay, say, 200 cities to go on a good road that will take 2.5 hours, no potholes. And if you have that understanding, it means that you can do a BOT. Because whoever is coming to fix the road knows they can charge that much and therefore recover their money within reasonable time.
Mm-hmm.
Why spend valuable time under worse, terrible conditions, and the solution is that you want to pay 5 cities or 10 cities? You have to be real.
Yeah.
Because the alternative is to go by air, which is a lot more expensive, and some people don't even like it. So people are not realistic in solving problems. Now, I would liken that to say when we started Unit Trust, right? I had done my research and knew that people were lending to themselves in the market for something like 50% a month, 100% a month. So I wasn't thinking about lending at going rates. I said, so if I can lend at even 20% to these people, I've done them a big service. And I'm being realistic. So when we started, those are the people that we targeted. Watches sellers, onion sellers, retailers, tomato sellers, egg sellers. Because those were people who were borrowing at 50%, 100%. And we were giving loans to them at 15% a month, which sounds too harsh and ridiculous. But we're providing them relief. And we had a simple structure. I said, okay, when we give you this, you pay so much every week. And they said, oh, I have another one. Then 7. And we started from there, and later on, as we built up funds and things like that, then we went into other markets or other clients, to the point where we now had funds that were manageable and a lot of people could access. So eventually, we're even lending to people who are running aircrafts. But I see businesses, people don't get realistic.
Yeah.
He comes and says, the way the banks are lending, I'm competing with them. Who told you I'm competing with the banks? You are not. Find your niche market and be realistic about the pricing. And the same thing for this country. We're just thinking like, oh, it's done here like this. And look at your situation.
Yeah.
And solve your problem. Eventually you catch up. But don't come saying that it's done this in the US and they're here in Japan. Are you Japan or US?
I think our leaders have to, understand our context. Because Ghanaians, even though now it's not exactly in our faces and glaring, there's an element of patriotism Ghanaians have. A certain love for Ghana, even though now it's weighing down over the years. Because what drew my attention to it, two things. 2020, in the week of a pandemic, the president gives an instruction that, the elections were coming up and people should go get their voters' IDs done. I think they were doing these new voters' IDs thing at the time. And this was in the context of a pandemic, and people still queued and went to get their voters' IDs done. And it just tells me that there is something here in the people that with the right leader, we could actually achieve a lot, The reason I bring that up is, when you mentioned, we can pay 200 cedis for toll, and people say, Ghanaians don't have money. If we have the right leader to give us this, this and this is why I think we should do this, and then we see results for the instructions, people will follow through,
From that angle, you're 100% right. Ghanaians everywhere always dream of coming back home. That's a fact.
Yeah.
It's just that they come back or try to come back and they get bitten by special circumstances and environment, and therefore they recoil and that's it.
Funny special circumstances.
Yeah, but every Ghanaian loves his country.
Yeah.
Some are giving up because they try and they don't understand the country and what's happening, and they feel disgusted, sometimes painful. And I have mates who are, to use your word, patriotic, want to come home and help. Some have tried to come. Invariably, the good ones go back. And I mean the good ones. Because those who are able to stay, not all of them, but majority of the people who are able to stay are people who drop their values and behave like the normal Ghanaians.
Fitting.
Yes. But if you're somebody who cannot drop your values and your standards, that's the kind of values you live there. When you come here, the system will drive you away. And so to your point, yes, if you have a leader who comes with a clear vision and is leading by example, and he's sanctioning, and he's empowering the institutions and monitoring it, and sacking, firing is a very good thing, And then people see, it will take not more than 2 months for people to see that Ghana is on the right path. And people will come and help. We have people who are very successful and knowledgeable, and appointments should be on merit, not political. But saying that is easy. Implementing it is almost impossible. You are saying on merit, when they were struggling to get
Power.
votes and power, you with your merit, you were not part of them. Then they should give it to you. So their investment, how do they recoup it? So we are in a catch-22 situation. Everybody knows that to achieve the desired results, you need people with merit and people who stand up to all sorts of things. But, Charlie, we can't give it to you people with merit. Though.
Yeah.
Take, for example, this government. I don't mind talking about this government. I think they're doing a great balancing act. They're giving some appointments to some merit and giving some to their own people. That's the best they can do. Because you've got your food soldiers and people who are hungry and say, we have invested. So maybe there's some of the sensitive places, you make sure that you get people who have the merit and also the loyalty, which counts.
Yeah.
It must be very difficult, but I don't think I'm good at politics.
Political analyst.
So that's what it is. So we will always have a problem. I think, in summary, I think we must actually redesign or tweak our democracy.
How so?
Now, the democracy of one man, one vote, I think can never get us out of this mess. So we can have a democracy that is not based on one man, one vote, but still representational. So, for example, and this is only theoretical, we have a democracy where the people choose those who should vote. We don't all want to go and queue. We go and queue once, and then we choose who should vote for us. And let those people vote. It's still democratic. We have decided to give them the power to vote for us. But one man, one vote, with our level of illiteracy and poverty and lack of values and things that can never get us. Unless we are lucky to get a leader, God-given leader, who says, cut out all this nonsense.
Yeah. I think, what you just proposed is not new. The Romans did it, the plebeians and the patricians, and there were the elites who could vote.
Even Americans are doing it to some extent.
Yeah, but my issue with that is that it only pushes back the problem, because the people are going to choose the people who are going to vote. Yeah. And so there's still going to be some involvement of the masses that we are trying to avoid anyway, in that appointing that one person anyway, But
so let me give you some figures.
Yes.
Assuming 90% of Ghanaians can't really, sorry to use the word, reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. This select group that we will choose to represent us, maybe 30% of them cannot reason, right? Yeah. So we have a better chance that the 70% will choose a good leader, as against 10% choosing a good leader. It's not possible.
Yeah.
So,
Our problem is a very complex problem, but I'm really excited about what you're doing with the foundation. I remember one time you're talking about how, when we go to the hospital, we have a trained doctor, someone who was trained to take care of us. When you go to, what's it called? When you go to see a carpenter, the person has been trained, or like a mechanic, he's been trained to attend to your needs. Why don't we train people to attend to our political needs? Train people so they can attend to us. And I think
for me it's easy. Yeah. It's easy like that, because we have leaders, and we've had leaders upon leaders, but these leaders have not been trained in ethical leadership, in being empathetic to people, going for the general good, respecting everybody, respecting time, respecting systems. We've not been trained in that.
Yeah.
So the last government, we had a very senior, luminary lawyer who didn't get anywhere. And he's supposed to be a good leader.
Yeah.
But have they been trained in what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I tell you, I get a lot of satisfaction. I sleep better when I talk to my cohorts, when they pass out their ambassadors and things like that. And we are putting some people into the system, given the chance, they can change the narrative.
I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. Now,
we have to do something.
Yeah. So now, there are two chapters in the book. Book one, the army and the wilderness. We're going to lump them together. The army and the wilderness.
Yeah.
The phase where you were, the wilderness being the phase where you were really trying to find yourself. So you're now in the University of Ghana. you had a national service, and then as reflective as you are, you decide that the trajectory you were on wasn't good. As a national service person, you were blowing out your money, you were going to all the nightclubs, and you decide that you need some discipline, you needed some structure. And then the story is told of how you saw the opening in the army in the newspaper. You consulted a few people who advised you to do so and do it, and you went in for it. Walk me through that journey in the army.
What?
Walk me through the journey of you going to the army, how that phase went. You being in the army after school, tempestuous life, all over the place. You decide that I need some structure in my life. And this is like very reflective of how your life has been up until that point. You do things, you reflect, you change course. You do things, you reflect, you change course. And now you are at this juncture in your life, young man, that, okay, well, I have to go into the army for so and so reasons. So I want you to walk me through that, the thinking that went into that, and then how your stint in the army went,
That's quite, but okay. When I applied for the army, I wasn't sure it was the right thing for me because personally, I didn't even like soldiers. We had fought with them during their champion days. I think somewhere around Ponglu, we confronted them and we saw them say, you people, foolish people, you didn't pass your exams, so that's why you are in the army. And we had all sort of things.
Yeah.
So going to the army was really something that I wasn't really serious about it, but I knew that I could change my life in terms of discipline and things. So I had to sort of backpedal and say, let me try it. So when I was going to the army, through the interview and thing, I wasn't serious. I just said, I'm not me now, I don't think I'll come, but just let me go through the system. So if you read, you've read my book, so you can see that the interview, I wasn't even serious. I gave them any answers at all. Like they asked me, have you got a girlfriend? I said, well, that's not a good question. You should say girlfriends.
Which one?
It was when they had received the letter accepting me to report. Then I said, hey, now I have to make a decision, serious decision. Do I report or I don't report? And then I took a step of walking straight to the office of one of the guys. For some reason, I could relate to him. There was a good vibe. And I went to the office. He was a major then, Major Odruebo, and I said, sir, if you had a son or a younger brother who was second class upper and wanted to join the army, what would you advise? And he looked at me and started pacing down and things like that. And they said, how old are you? I said, 23. And smiled and said, join the army. I said, this man, is that all? But anyway, he had advised me. And then I also met Major Ablo, who was then my mate that were going together, contacted his major friend, his uncle or son who was a major, and he also advised we should join the army. So then we said, okay, let's give it a try. I went thinking that if it wasn't the right place, I could just walk out. I didn't know that once you get in there, you are bound and you can't move. So I walked in like a basically, like I wrote in the book, with cigarettes in my pocket and thinking that, I thought after university, really, you're mature, you should be respected. That was my idea. And they kicked that nonsense out of my head. First day I realized that no, these people, they don't respect me. And at first, I thought I could fight it, or I realized I couldn't run away. And I not only I couldn't run away, I wouldn't run away because there were female cadets. And one thing which kept me there was, if the women are not run away, if you run away, what are you going to tell people that you ran away and left the woman there? So then I stayed. And I realized that, listen, for me to go through this course successfully without hazard, I have to excel in what was required of me. So then I challenged myself, and I will take on things and exercises and instruction seriously. And it was a big relief because, you see, assuming they show you how to march, and you march well, they probably put you aside to rest. And then they concentrate on those who are not good at marching. So I found it very easy. So I do it extremely well. And then I have this, and you have the love of all the instructors that, yeah, you are getting it. And then they concentrate on the bad ones. So that also made me enjoy the army, because everybody was praising me that this guy, he's drill, he's this. So by the time I came out of the army, I was completely in love with the army. And of course, I had changed. There were a lot of things I wouldn't do. I was time conscious. I've been taught about leadership and how to actually get your men to trust you and all those things, and field craft, all the things that they teach in the military academy. And I loved it.
Yeah.
To the point that the military academy, which was supposed to be a torturous area, the day we were commissioned, I felt sad, but I couldn't tell anybody that the next morning there won't be any hectic work for you to go to and all those things. I felt I'd missed something. But then that took us out, and then we joined the battalions for training and so on and so forth. But I think most people, when they read the first book about me joining the army, the one part that they never miss is my roommate running away.
Yeah. And you helping him out with that?
And me having
Wait to eat Gary in the room.
Yeah. And then being harassed, heavily harassed after you're gone.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're changed. So there's a picture I have of you. You mentioned you went to the taxi driver on the day of like reporting. You had the cigarettes in your pockets, and then you were instructed by the officer to get down and put your trunk on your head and start. There's a term you use for it. They're running around.
Double up.
Double up, yeah. And you had your cigarettes falling out, and you almost wanted to go back, and then the officer instructed the taxi driver to move away. That young man. And
the driver.
No, you. Talking about you now.
Yeah.
That young man at that place. And then the young man who came out of the military, who decided to exit. I mean, we touched on why he decided to leave the army anyway. What had changed?
I was more disciplined. One thing about the army is that you are taught to live with very little minimalism. And for example, you had maybe 2 shoes, 1 service shoe, your dresses are number 3, that you didn't need anything. And you had to make sure that they work. I mean, you go with your boots into a lagoon or something, you come back, you must polish it and let it shine the next morning. So for somebody who lived carelessly and things like that, I would just throw my shirt anywhere. Everything has to be in this place. And it comes with a lot of discipline. And so I had changed. I'd become a disciplined person. Of course, I'd grown up a bit. I'd become a leader. And I looked out to support my subordinates, which was the requirement. And I lived frugally. Didn't need so many things. But I had a lot of confidence. When you come out of the army and you see civilians walking around, you look at them and say, bloody idle civilians. That's what we always say. Bloody idle civilians. They walk as if they don't have anywhere to go to. And you feel superior. You look at people and you know that, you've transformed and you have a purpose and you know what you're supposed to do and so on and so forth. So a lot has changed completely, from the guy who will go to the class and the student will say that, Charlie, Master, you need some rest, go and rest, to somebody who knew what he was about and he planned and executed things. It was a big, big change.
That's interesting because, so here you are, 27-year-old man, rising star in the Ghana Armed Forces, only chartered accountant, but you left.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand why you left.
It's very easy. It's very easy why I left.
Why?
Look at the timing. When I left to do the chartered accountancy course, and I came back course and management accountant. This was 1978 to December 79.
Okay. The Kufu?
That was a Champon and a Kufu.
Kufu. Yeah.
Now, in the last 6 months, Rawlings organized the coup, AFRC. Mm-hmm. That was June 4th. And the story that we heard on BBC, you couldn't believe, even a Ghanaian, because Ghana had never heard of anything like that, that generals were executed and the country was in a turmoil and asking for more deaths and things like that. It's like, and then we had a situation where a flight lieutenant was the head of state, when they're all sort of generals and things like that, with other ranks being members of government. I didn't understand it. That's not the army that I went to and the army that trained me and all that. So I decided really not to come back. And I wrote to my dad and told my dad that I don't understand. I don't think I want to be part of this armed forces where I have junior officers and other ranks being the seniors and then everything turned upside down and so on and so forth. But then the AFRC handed over power after about 3 months in September to Liman. 79. So then I said, let me go and see. Now that there's a proper government in place, civilian government, let's go and see what the armed forces was going to do. Because then in the armed forces, rank is rank. So if they've left the scene, then we can see how we restructure the armed forces. So I came with hope that, the armed forces will have a chance of becoming what they used to be or what I believed was necessary. And when I came, the armed forces had changed completely. I mean, discipline. I mean, other ranks even meet you and they will salute you if they like you. Otherwise, they will turn as if they haven't seen you. And the officers were afraid of them too. Because during the Rawlings era, the other ranks, simply put, all ranks major and above were supposed to report in the guard room, right? And then for the other ranks and the junior officers became the bosses. And some were killed, some went into exile, all sort of atrocities. Some I don't even want to mention what they did to their families and things like that. So they had drawn inwards. The army where when you're coming, you know that you're completely in control. And the other rank defers to you completely. Was no more. So I was looking at all this and I said, well, maybe with time it can change. So I was prepared to stay and see the army transform back to something close to what it used to be. Then 1981, PNDC. And I said, my God. And PNDC was, if anything, the coup de grace or whatever it's called. PNDC came, and again it was a captain, but the same rank as my rank. Because I was a captain, flight lieutenant is a captain. And see, I always say that if, for example, John had taken the rank of general, which is what is done, then the status quo will prevail, except that he has moved to the top. But he stayed flight lieutenant all the time. Even until his death, he was flight lieutenant. Therefore, you had a system where the head was flight lieutenant, being saluted by all these generals and other people and things. And then because his government also included other ranks, some other ranks were more powerful than some of the colonels and generals because they were members of government. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I met Akatapori or when I met Ajebwedi, I didn't know what to do. As a member of government, do I salute you or you salute me? And then they would say sir, and I also have to say sir or something. And I was confused, But then what was worse for me, not to mention the atrocities visited on business people and all that, for me what was really worse was the formation of People's Defense Committees and Workers' Defense Committees, where now, even in the army, they had People's Defense Committees, and like if an officer gives an order, it must be a genuine order, or the other rank must agree that it's a genuine order before they obey. That is not the armed forces.
Yeah.
So
just the chaos.
I said, okay. I don't want to be a part of this. And therefore, I literally walked out of the armed forces. My kids were still in school at Burma camp. I went and picked them. I said, I'm not coming to work. Take your armed forces. Later on, when I moved my kids, what I probably regret is that I did not keep in touch with all my friends who were in the military.
Yeah.
And I dropped my rank. So people didn't even know I was in the armed forces. I just didn't want to be associated with the armed forces. Because I transitioned to civilian business and all that. And so people didn't know I was even in the army.
Yeah.
And people called Kofi Amoabeng, and I was okay with it. To digress a bit, I remember when I started playing golf, the people didn't know I was in the military. And then one day it was raining, and everybody rushed for the umbrellas and went to stand at trees, and I was standing in the rain. And one guy commented and says, "Why are you behaving like these stupid soldiers who come and play golf and they are not afraid of rain?" And I said, I think the lid is coming, or people are, I don't know. But certainly, soldier life is raining. It's not a big deal. So it was when I started Unique Trust, and I said, no, wait. Civilians who are coming to borrow money, they need to know I'm a captain because they fear soldiers. That is when I took my rank back. Yeah. And then, of course, of late, I'm struggling to get in touch with my fellow, military officers, and I attend some meetings and things. But I cut my relations completely with them. So that's what happened.
There's a story you told about how, I think when the coup happened, in the week of the coup, someone almost shot you. A blank, got out of your car to ask you questions.
Yeah. And that's the guy who knew me.
It's right.
I had to bluff my way because they had laid ambush somewhere around, where the SIL is, the petrol station around Birmingham. And I was coming with my family, and then they came out of the bush and said, friend or foe, or something like that. And I said, so who will say foe? And I looked at the guy and said, you. So, some people are dissidents and things like that. And I had to bluff my way. I mean, it could be anything. And those days, if you were shot, nothing happened. I know people who died. Nothing happened. They just brand them as dissidents, as in they against the coup, and that's it. So they were heady days, but luckily went through it. And I walked out of the armed forces with no plan B. I just said, but I thought I could go outside because I've been to UK or find a job in Nigeria or do something. So I knew I had options. But for a typical professional soldier, you either had to raise a voice, in which case you probably be killed, or you have to go into exile, or get caught and stay in there because you don't have anywhere to go, or be part of the atrocities. And I didn't want to be any of those things.
So you're out of the military, right? In the book you mentioned that you thought you could land a job. You had all this chartered accountant, if not anything at all. And so you were exploring your options, trying to find a job. And that was hectic. You even at a point went to Nigeria to almost did a teaching gig there.
Yeah.
Drinking light soup and was good head with your friend. Good head with your friend. And there came Jam House. So that wilderness, would you want to walk us through?
It started whilst I was trying to find a job and other things. I moved out of Birmingham, and I started building a house with the kind of money that I saved when I was in UK, but very much uncompleted. But I moved in like that with my family. So we spent evenings and free times in my next door's house, because that was a more complete house with furnishing and things. So that's where we spent evenings, and I'll tell him stories. And he liked this. I think my experience in the army and things like that. And I had nothing doing. I would travel and come back. And he says, well, why don't I join him to do business? I think, and I'm very sure about it, he needed me, because at the time people were afraid of soldiers, so you're doing all sorts of things to business people. So if I became his partner, then at least he would have found a way or something against, or something to shelter him from the military, which is true. So I wake up in the morning and I go and drop my kids and his kids, because I found schools for them in Birmingham as well. And then I will just follow him and we'll go to town. And eventually, when I went to Nigeria and came back, I realized that I couldn't stay in Nigeria. He said, okay, he will offer me shares in his company, so we work together. And he had registered a sawmill at the time, but hadn't started anything with it. And he also had a company called Jam House, which did almost anything and everything. And that's how I started being in business. It's a long story, 15 years of doing all sorts of things.
Air conditions and
Air
oil.
conditioning, timber business, oil business, importation of wines. Importation of wine, why I remember it is that
Got in trouble.
I got in trouble with the wines. They were called Grifoni wines. But I mean, when things happen, it's a matter of your own conscience. When you know that, you are right.
Yeah.
You don't care what the system does. And you know that the truth will prevail. And if anything happens, it happens for a reason. So I did all sorts of things. But I think probably the most successful one was the oil business, where I was the rep for Alpha-Ketane, which later on was bought by Total. And I was the agent that brought Alpha-Ketane to acquire BP installations and interest in Ghana. And I made some money, and then the money's also left somehow. But after I left Alpha-Ketane, then I got seriously into other businesses, and that is when I had problem with funding. I said, let's cut out all these things, and I will start lending to SME.
So we'll come to that just shortly. When you were going for your interview in the army, they asked you that, who is your girlfriend? And you were like, oh, which one? And that's to say, like, you had a lot of, love interest. And then 4 or 5 years down the line, there's a man who is married with kids. It's also like a testament of what the army had done to you. Like, you had become grounded. You're willing to...
Not really.
Just because the reason I want to ask that is that I think in your wilderness phase, your marriage ruptured, so to speak.
Yeah.
You lost.
All because I wasn't like you said, I'd become grounded because I wasn't grounded. I was staying at Nkrumah, and I'll leave for work, not knowing even which work, and making contacts and with my business friends and things like that. By say 5, 6, they will go home because they live around Asylum Down, probably even read stories to their children. But I can't go to Nkrumah, I come back. And then when they reassemble, or we reassemble around 7. So for me, between 5 and 7 or 8 o'clock, I wait for them, and then we continue drinking. And sometimes I go home earliest probably 12 midnight, and I'll be driving on the Nkrumah road. And of course, it means I wasn't home, and therefore my wife, of course, will complain about it. What made it worse was that my wife was taking care of my 2 kids that were not her biological kids. So she said, and she was right, she said that I've turned her into a nursery, a day nursery teacher, and I wouldn't change, unfortunately. And therefore, eventually she took it on the kids, and the relationship between her and the kids became very, very bad. It was my fault. I mean, I wasn't there to support her to raise the kids. So when I realized that things were that bad, I had to make a choice between my wife and the kids. So I sat her down, no third person, and talked to her. Whatever we had, we shared. And I said, okay, fine. I wish you well. And I was left with my kids. And then I walked into another marriage with my kids. So when it comes to that side, I didn't do well.
Yeah. Do you think the chaos had come back because you're out of the army? And maybe...
No, you see, the army straightens you in a whole lot of things, but I don't think when it comes to women, the army does a good job. Actually, you feel like a Superman. So if anything...
Yeah. And also, influences from your dad. I mean, you're grown up with this dad who was, drawn to the gear things of life. You mentioned he even left his own wife, went to stay 10 years with another woman, and all of that. Do you think like
You
maybe
mean
that,
it's genetic?
like influence, like social influence. But that said, the meat of the matter. So you've done all these explorations. You've gone to the army. You've come back. There's chaos. There's things are not exactly certain in your life, in your career, and you're trying to navigate your way through. And you're a very interesting character because in all these things, you seem to have values. Like even in your business dealings, there are some of the instances I've read that your friends were expecting you to lie and tweak things to make, but you will not lie. I'm like, who is this man who is doing this thing, having a good time and born? I will not lie. I will not compromise my integrity, and that's very interesting.
Yeah, but
you know.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you get to this juncture in your life where I think you said you were on the Achimota overhead or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about your life and because there are opportunities for you to go out of the country. We went to think Liberia at some point, all of that, and you decide that God has put you here for a reason.
So I will stick it out.
Yeah, and that's to me. I really like it. A very reflective character, and you have a very deep sense of purpose and spirituality, even though it's not the conventional way people see it, but it's there.
You're right.
It's there, and so from there you make a decision that I'm going to lend. If I'm not getting the money I need to do my business, I am going to be the one to lend, and that's crazy because you're not getting the money anyway. Who's going to give you the money to give to other people? So at that point in your life, when you're standing on that overhead, what was going through your mind? And from there, we go to the start of UT.
So when I was standing on the overhead, and I was seeing people driving by, maybe family or with their girlfriends or with their kids and Mercedes-Benz and other things, and I was looking and said, I'm certainly not a stupid person. I'm a very intelligent person. And if these guys are making it in Ghana and I'm trying to run away, something is wrong. If they've been able to make it, all these people in their cars and smiling and going about with their families are making it in Ghana somehow. So I'm not doing the right thing. So the best thing is forget about traveling or going outside. You made up your mind. You're going to be here. This is where God put you. And take the problem as it comes. Dissect them, understand them, reflect on them, and find solutions, period. So going out was out of the question.
So here you are, made a decision that you're going to build a credit business, And I think I find it very interesting because I'm also a credit entrepreneur myself. I don't lend cash up front, just we lend through assets. And I think it's a great landscape for the Ghanaian economy. I think Ghanaians really need credit and a proper credit infrastructure. So you set on to do this, build a credit business, lend money. What did you do next?
I almost quit because I had a plan of, raising money, setting up nice offices, and with a lot of money, the people will come and I give to them. And I had very good friends who had money. I was playing golf at the time, so I had some golfing friends who were supposed to have money. For some, almost millionaires, and not Ghanaian. I had one Nigerian friend who was certainly a millionaire, and I was playing golf with him every day. So these people promised me that, I told them what I was doing. I've gotten a license. I'm applying for a license. They said, once you get a license, Kofi, we know you, we'll give you money. So I was quite comfortable. So I got a license and I celebrated the fact that I got a license. And I went to them and said, Charlie, let's go. One by one. They all said, I think the thing is, even the banks are not able to collect their money. Then you, one man, you start and say you can lend and collect your money. And so I almost abandoned the whole idea because I went round. The problem was that I was looking for people who would put the money and take shares because I was looking for big money and I couldn't get. Now I was keeping a license and not using it. So I was desperate. And as the story goes, like I had a friend who was in the US and he had a communication center. So I was thinking, yeah, it's not the kind of office I was thinking about, but one room office. it's better to start something and see how it works out.
Yeah.
So I called him and I said, Charlie, that office that I'm supervising for you, I think I want to use it to start this business.
The background is that you were helping him audit his business, do the books for his business. Yes. Okay.
You know, when he's auditing here, I go there about once every week or every 2 weeks to go and see how my sales and this and that and tell him. And it was being run by his wife, basically. So, and they were making losses. Of course, what did you expect? So when I called him, I said, listen, I think I want to use your office to run this. He said, oh, use it for anything. So then at least I had an office. And it was a one-room office with no toilet, no curtains, one big table, fax machine, telephone, whatever. At least we could start work. And I said, first thing, that your wife has to leave because I'm not going to work with your wife. He said, okay, whatever. He will take care of the wife. So the wife left. Another lady who was there. He said, she knows she cannot work with me. I said, okay, then you go out. So I had 2 people and then my driver. That's 3. That's how we started.
You had a driver?
I had a driver who was not my driver per se, but he used to work for Mitsubishi, and he took to me, and I would always go and leave my car with him if he needed repairs and things like that. And so he wanted to come along, and he came along. And so the 3 of them and myself, we started. We go to the same office, almost nothing. End of the month, I'll find some money to give them. And as I've said so many times, when you're looking for money, you should not look for big money from individuals. So I went to this friend who said I should come to Kofodia to come and make my presentation. He would give me money positively. And I went to him, and as I was talking, I realized that he wasn't listening. And I looked at him and I said, you are not listening. So it looks like he won't give the money. And he said, I want 200 million OCDs at the time. After that, he cannot give me because he also needs the money to run his business. But he can give me 10 million because after 10 million, if I'm not able to pay, it won't spoil our friendship. But 200 million, he doesn't see how he would deal with that. And I got mad at him. And I said, I didn't come here to beg for peanuts. And I told him plenty of rubbish. And I packed up and I drove away. The interesting is that when I was so tense and everything and mad, when I got to Suhum place, I stopped and drank some 2 Guinness to calm down.
You and your 2 Guinness. The day you left your wife, you sent your husband to go and buy you 2
Guinness. 1 is not enough, 2 is just right.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I came home, and in the night I was reflecting. I said, I think it wasn't fair of me to be so harsh on this guy and insult him because after all, he offered something.
Yeah.
The others have not offered anything. And 10 million is not that bad, except that it cannot work. I said that.
At the time, had you already started lending money to people?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I think we had tried, but we had not really lent. I'm not sure. Maybe we had done some small lending, well relevant. So I said, I think I may have friends who can give 10 million, 5 million. So I'll go to all of them. That's how I can raise the monies. So I drafted a letter, personal letter and things like that, and then started chasing them for it. And we raised monies. I was looking for 200 million. We raised 255 million. And I knew that we were not going to look back. Because those monies, I wasn't going to let them go to waste. My life was on it, and I have to make sure that I pay it back to them, and I'm able to raise more money. And that's how we started. And I'll carry my own register with a check, go to them end of every month, call them before the due date, tell them that, I beg you, can I use again, or you want your money? If you want money, I'll bring it. If you want interest, why don't you take interest and let me use the money again? And they like the idea that I personally was delivering the monies without default. It established trust, and people started giving money. Those who give the money are giving us more money, and so on and so forth. So we could now do more loans. But the money was expensive. I was paying 5% a month on each of them, but I was lending at 15% a month. So the math was very straightforward.
Yeah.
If I can get 15% and pay them 5%, Let's 5% go to waste. I still have 5% to run the business. That's it. That's the mass of it. Very simple. But then you will not go away and chop my money. I'll come at you with everything I learned in the army and my own stubbornness, and I'll make sure that you pay me back. Which end is a bad name, but up to today, I don't see why she end is a bad name at all.
There's so many stories that can explain.
Oh yeah.
But there's a question I want to ask. In those early days, running a microcredit business, when you had an obligation to your investors, and then you were particularly touching the zone even the banks were scared to touch, informal market, people who didn't even probably have ID cards. At that time, Google location wasn't the play thing, so you have to, a very
sketching.
Yes, on a hedged consumer credits, right? What gave you the impression that you could do it, and what strategy did you put in place at the time?
Well, basically, I wanted to solve people's problems. See, business is about wanting to solve problems that is affecting people. And the more I could solve somebody's problem and I relate to them and see how the effect is having on their lives, on their families, I became very passionate about it. And of course, even the investors. Some investors will come to me and say they want to give me money. I said, no, you know how much money I've made on your money? You won't even try to give me money because they felt that protected the money, they've got so much interest and things. And I like that. The fact that I'm touching people's lives in various ways.
Yeah.
That was for me the thing. It wasn't just the fact that I wanted to make money, but I knew that if I was not strict and did not collect the money, then of course I would disappoint the investors, and therefore the whole business will go down. So it's very clear. I didn't have too many problems with it. I didn't want, what people think is that, we got monies and then we forced them to take high interest. No. We even had a limit. We called it interest coverage ratio, which is the true name. And we will analyze the loan you want to make sure that your profit can cover the interest rate by at least 2 times. Well, I said it's unethical for me to give you a loan and me to take more or less most of the profit and give very little. So we'll do that. That is why when people fail to pay, I got really, really mad.
Yeah.
Because we've tried to, and I'd been an SME for 15 years. I knew almost every business. So people come and tell them, listen, you don't even need 20 million, you need 25. So I'll give you 25, not 20. If I give you 20, you go and get stuck. So we did our best in the interest of people, general interest of all people. That's how come we're successful. Because if you are selfish, you're looking at your own interests, you won't be successful. But people come, they experience it, and they know that you care. And they were most of the good paying guys were my clients, were my friends. I had people who call me and say, hey, don't bring any paper. Tell them to bring the money here. I wanted to pay for it now. Later on, they can bring the paper. And I'll send the money. I did all sort of loans like that, And you can't find it anywhere. But that is what satisfies the requirement of SME. Because it's not structured. You must be able to understand the business and bend accordingly. A typical SME, like you're sitting here and then somebody comes and says, Charlie, I'm going home. I want to leave my car with you. If you give me some 20,000, take the car. And the car costs maybe 40,000. Which bank? Where are you passing? I come to me and tell me, I say, okay, park the car and let's pay him and go look at the papers. And that's it. We solved it. But of course, when you grow the business to a point, you must put structures and processes and systems in place. But initially, that's how we were running the business. It was me on the spot. Everyone who came to UT or Unique Trust had to see me first. Because I wanted to save you time. If you tell me about your business, I think it's not good. I say, go find A, B, C, and come back if you should find it. And I give you your time back. Instead of the banks and other institutions saying, okay, fill forms here, bring this application, go and come. I don't like that. I wouldn't want to waste anybody's time. Yeah. If we do the loan, I think you have what it takes, then I'll give it to someone and you have to report back to me in 24 hours.
And I think another portion of your book that for me, I did a lot of notes was how you engage your team. I mean, well, I was saying that your experience in the wilderness for 15 years doing all sorts of things like internet, let's say divine preparation for this particular task, because you're done every business, and so now you could tell and you could put yourself in the shoes of like the client you were attending to, but then how you dealt with your team, it was like probably maybe from influence from the military. They were very, very loyal, to a very high degree. And then they could talk to you about anything. I think there was a story where you mentioned that you had bought a car and then they thought I was too plush and then they questioned you about it in a meeting and then you're able to explain to them, I mean, at some point, some of them misbehaved and then you put the fear of God in them. But just scaling that team and then how did you manage to, because at some point you weren't going to be the one everybody was seeing, you weren't going to be
we
getting
had branches
everybody all over the place.
thing.
How did you manage to get that across to your team members? How do you get to put that in them, that kind of training?
I think the first thing is you lead by example. And you lead or create a culture of openness, transparency, of love for the people. For example, if I had a credit officer who is handling a client, I will always talk to the client in the presence of the credit officer. So he knows the position is the company's position, not my position. A lot of times the MD or whatever will call the client and discuss with the client, tell the credit officer what to go and do. Yeah. No. I call you and we'll discuss. I said, are you comfortable with it? Because it is your loan. It is not my loan. And let them feel responsible and also show trust that you trust them and what they do. You monitor on the back, but let them feel that it is them and it is their contribution to the company. And that's why I also could create leaders that I could use to open branches and they will do exactly what I'm doing, know how I run my company. But they also know that if you cross the line, you're out.
Okay.
So, and personally, I love people. It's as simple as that. And when I see people, I looking at how I can help if they need my help. Of course, you get your fingers bent, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
One person should not let you change from your cause or your belief systems. And the way to love people, if you have the chance to discipline the wrong ones too. And let them know that you will not take nonsense or take those deviants and things like that. But I love people. So long as I'm in a position to help, I'll help.
Yeah.
It's when you lie to me or you put me off on the wrong in the wrong direction. So then I get mad because I came with my heart out to try and help you. And then you return with that negativity. Then it's a bit annoying. It's a bit irritating. But even that one, I can give you a second chance if I have to.
Yeah. UT really did revolutionize like the London landscape in Ghana. Really.
Yeah.
You go everywhere, and then I've been growing up. You hear on the radio every morning, UT 48 hours. Everybody knew that's your commercial. And for me, I think the banks then, before you started UT, and the banks now, regards to London, have not changed. And I wonder why the problem is if you and an individual make the bold step and say, in this informal market, we can put these structures in place and build this thing up properly. Because you built this thing from a 20,000 cedis, $20,000 business to a 19 million.
20,000 even included my car.
Yes. And so why haven't the banks changed? Regards like their approach and posture towards offering credit and even like now today, I have friends who have like so many stories of personal business stories where you have the collateral they would want, you have everything, and they still don't want to give you money. They'd rather go and buy like a government bond or something. Why do you think it's still like? Why are banks pushing that way?
I understand what you're saying. Generally, Ghanaians are not good people. I've come to that conclusion. So a lot of people in the former banks, they put risk management to the hilt. Compliance, and of course they are being regulated and all those things. So they cannot become reckless in that sense. And there's also the disconnect between banks and SMEs, for example. The people who run the banks, maybe with MBAs and things like that, and can be at best case studies when they were going to school, that's not typical SME. Meanwhile, they have the money and they wear all the suits. And then you, the businessman, you come with your T-shirt or whatever, and you want 100,000 from them. They are looking at you and say, okay, this is a typical crook who is coming to take our money. So the engagement is wrong most of the time.
Yeah.
They don't understand you. You also don't understand them. And you want the money now, and you think, we have processes, and they have to go by the process. Otherwise, So there's a lot. And every country is actually built on SMEs. So we need to solve the problem with the SMEs. But it's difficult to solve because Ghanaians generally, as I said, are not good people. If you give yourself or you allow them a little space, you will not believe what they can do to you. I've had to lick my wounds so many times, really. But the people that are bent over backwards to help, a lot of them, I tell you what they will do to you in terms of non-payment, and even when they have not even paid, what they will go and say about you. One person told me that when I'm signing a document, I should read it carefully, because he went to see his lawyers and was fighting because we helped him. So in that situation, you find that institutions will just go by the book.
Yeah.
And it's painful when someone that you're trying to help really turns around to stab you in the back.
Okay.
So institutions won't stand for that, and they will not trust their staff to do whatever they like. So there are proper system processes that they have to go through, which is to the detriment of the SMEs and to the detriment of the development of the country. But it is what it is, and we can't change it overnight. I think the Bank of Ghana now, I read this week or last week that they call them willful defaulters. And a lot of people are willful defaulters. They get up from their home, going to look for a loan, knowing that they are not going to pay. And the Bank of Ghana says, for those people, they'll be banned from the banking system. You won't take a loan for maybe 3 years or 5 years, which would deter you. Because if you're a serious business person, you wouldn't want to be sidelined like that. But it's unbelievable. So many people will not want to pay for loans that they go for.
So you built this great business. Like I said, $20,000 to $90 million. You're listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. $90 million in market cap as a financial service. Rising star, up there. And then you change course.
Yeah. Yes, no, yes, but yes.
Why?
It's something that most people don't understand. The third book, the title is Fateful Decisions. We had to make decisions that transformed us or made us think that we change course. First thing, we had UT Property, UT Logistics, UT Life, UT that, which was a mistake because Ghanaians don't like successful people. So, that man, and he owns this, and he owns that, and he owns that. Maybe I should call Ajua Property, Abena Logistics or something. Just by the way. But it's because I was doing a transparent job. This is what we're doing. This is, and you could check our accounts and everything year by year and formations and whatever. So, and one thing that we did that most people probably didn't know was that we were heavy on strategic sessions. And we got the input of all the teams. Where do we want to be in the next 3 years? What and when we debated. And we agreed that, okay, this is what we have to do. So and then we set KPIs and SLAs and whatever to make sure that we do. And one thing about UT was that because everybody was involved, everybody felt respected and loved and things like that. When we go for those strategy sessions, we say that, for example, we want to be here in the next 3 years. 1.5 years, we've already achieved it. We have to go quickly and look for something better. So at one of these strategy sessions, somebody said, "Why we have property, we have logistics, we have financial services. Why don't we own a bank?"
Why you decide to do all those things? Don't you think that distracted
No,
the team?
at all. In fact, I never achieved the real purpose for which I set all those things up. Because, you see, the properties and the logistics were there to support the financial services. For example, you walk into Ghana with a car, that's all your property you have, and you can't even clear it from the port, right? You don't have the collateral because it's at the port. So if you come to us, go to retail logistics. They go look at the car, but they come to you and say, "Chief, yes, we'll give a loan to this guy. We'll clear the car and make sure that he sells, and we'll pay the money back to the financial services." So financial services has not gone to do logistics business,
Okay.
but logistics has made sure that the guy's car is cleared and is sold, and the monies are paid to the bank. That's how logistics was supporting the financial services. Property is the same. If we want properties valued, the property will just go and give me a call and said, the property is about 110,000 plus or minus 10%. And it's proper valuation. Then I can go ahead and do my loan in 48 hours. So that's what we built. People thought, oh, he was in the property and he was in the... No. It was all geared towards supporting the financial services. That's how come we grew very fast. Anyway, so at one of these strategy sessions, somebody said, "Why don't you own a bank?" And I asked some questions. I said, I had said earlier that we would never become a bank because we came into being because we didn't like what the banks were doing. So we cannot become one of them now. But finally, after we debated, we said, yeah, we should have UT Bank, UT Financial Services, UT, in addition to the UT things. So once we agreed, we had to execute. It was never that we wanted to become a bank, never. Now, so that's why we went to the stock exchange, raised $27 million. And with that money, the only way we could become a bank, especially a Nkrumah boy, to become a bank, was to buy a bank with a banking license. Because at that time, all the banks in Ghana were either state-owned banks, foreign banks, state institutions banks, or banks for former governors of Bank of Ghana. And it was easy. I looked at it, I said, they won't give me license. So we'll buy one. And then we went around it and bought an existing bank. And then we'll...
BPI, right?
BPI Bank, yeah, which was owned by Malaysians. Well, that was the only bank which didn't have a mother bank or a head office outside and all those things. So we targeted it and then we bought it. Now, we bought it, we rebranded it to UT Bank so that we'll have UT Bank, UT Financial Services, same plan. At the time we bought it, the minimum capital for banks was about $7 million, which was 7 million cedis at the time. This is about 2008, 2009. And then the Governor Bank of Ghana, or the central bank, reviewed minimum capital from 7 million to 60 million. So we had bought a bank.
You have a license in hand.
I have a license, but I don't have 60 million. The options are very straightforward. If you bring in investors, you've lost the bank. Because with 7 million or 10 million out of 60 million, they're going to control majority shares. They can change the name if they want to. They can do anything, whatever. And you cannot let the bank go and keep financial service. So after buying the bank and going through all that, you want to sell it.
Why? Why couldn't you let the bank go and keep the financial services? Because the financial services was what had brought you to this point.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that and I used to have 2 cards at the time, complementary cards. If I go somewhere and I put financial service, for example, oh, okay, so that's your company. What do you do? And I explain. When I put CEO UT Bank, you own a bank? Everyone knows a bank.
Okay.
So we came home and I said, listen, we are in this dilemma. Do we let the bank go? In which case we'll make losses, a lot of losses, because all the money we paid and all those things, I'm not sure we can get it back. Or we retain minority interest in the bank, in which case we cannot dictate what the bank gets into and so on and so forth. Then we looked at the position where we can merge UT Financial Service and UT Bank and end up with majority shares in the bank, because UT Financial Service still had a lot of capital in it. Now, the big question was, what was bringing the money was UT Financial Service. The bank is new. We don't know and we are not even bankers. So the issue is, can we do UT Financial Service business in the banking sector? Because after all, banks are supposed to lend. It's because they are not efficient. That's how can we form something smaller than a bank. And we convince ourselves that, yes, why not? We can do a loan in 48 hours, even in a banking setup. So if you remember, when we set up, we became UT Bank, so we wrote on our vehicles and billboards, still a loan in 48 hours. And we went through a whole lot of simulations and deliberations, and we set up Project David to look at what we're doing in financial services, what we're doing, what we can do in the bank. And we convinced ourselves that we could do the financial service business in the bank. So then we merged the two and we called it UT Bank. You understand?
Yeah.
So now we had UT Bank, but it had its own problems too. Plenty of problems. The first problem, by far, was that we lost our culture. Because we're not bankers, we had to now bring in bankers, senior bankers, like head of treasury, head of banking operations, head of risk, head of compliance, you name it. And we had to push these people from other banks. And we had already had a problem of culture between BPI and UT Financial Services. As if that was not enough, we now had these heads of departments who came into the bank because BPI to all the good bankers had left, to sit at the heads of departments. So here I was, CEO. All my immediate heads came with different cultures, very different cultures. For example, we had someone from UBO, if he sees me, he wants to kneel down. I say, I beg you. Hey, we don't do that nonsense. And then, they become sort of a foil, if you like.
Between you and then
between me and the rest of the team, because I give instructions, but in his department, he's the head. This is how he runs things. And it's different from what we used to do. So for me, the culture bit was the biggest. And somewhere even they came in as crooks. They were stealing. I had to sack head of corporate and his deputy at the same one day. And what happened was they were even maltreating the UT people who were free-spirited because they felt they were too known, because they are not used to that. So the guys like drivers and LMOs and things, who were my friends, I mean, they could walk into my office and tell me anything because that was our culture. If they walked into the head of department office, get out. What do you mean? You come to my office? And it's like, And I got some of these reports. So I had to actually sit with them and try and tell them, you must live by our culture and things like that. But that is only one aspect, as I said, is the main one. Then we had issues with our software. We had to change software from Finacle to Terminus. And we had the issues with migration and cleaning the data and all those things. I mean, somebody walked to me one day and said he's been credited almost 1 million CDs, but he hasn't got that money. Now, the question is, for every credit, there's a debit. So those people have been credited with our money. They're not going to come back. That's another aspect of it. Then even our process, we have problems with it. Because the bankers at BPI didn't know how to do fast loan. Our UT guy who did fast loan didn't know banking. So we had a situation where we had two managers in the branches, one for loan and one for normal banking. So you can see there's a bit of confusion. Sometimes the UT guy is the boss, sometimes the BPI guy is the boss, and so on and so forth. And we had to change our processes and things like that. But now all those things, they cost you money. So back to your question. It's not that we change course, but the circumstances that we faced at the particular time made us take some decisions which affected the whole growth pattern of UT. Yep.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
at some point you decided to step down as CEO.
You know what?
At some point you decided to step down as CEO.
Yeah. You see, so with all this, it culminated in non-performing loans and also other things. See, when we went from UT Financial to UT Bank, we were carrying expensive money. Because at UT Financial Services, we had to borrow at higher than treasury rate, normal. Because if you don't give them more, they'll give it to the government. And then we brought these monies into UT Bank. Those were expensive monies. And because the bank was down, they didn't have any so-called cheap deposits like current accounts and savings to dilute it. Now, not only did we do that, so it meant that, for example, if your money is more expensive than treasury bill, you should not buy treasury bill unless you are crazy. But we had to buy a bit of treasury bill to manage the treasury.
Oh, okay.
You know, because if, let's say, there are shortfalls, overnight shortfalls, you need treasury bills to actually raise those monies and so on and so forth. So we did a bit of it. But it meant that we should aggressively lend, but then make sure you lend without default. Because it's only lending that will give you more than a treasury bill rate. You cannot, like most cozy banks, take their deposits and buy treasury bill and virtually go to bed. At UT, because our monies were expensive, we could not use it to buy treasury bill. We had to actually look into lending, and lending in lucrative areas, and lending in a kind of focused area and be sharper. But then, here again, with the old team, we could have done it. But then there's been a new team with foreigners and things, and they come, and we had changed our processes in the sense that before it was, we give them money, bring it back this date.
Yes.
We don't care where you go, but you bring it back. Now we have to do relationship banking, because you can't do a loan of, say, 1 million cedis to someone and not care where the money is going to see. You won't give it to them for them to go and put in their bank. It doesn't make sense. So you now have to do the loan and credit the account and then manage it so that some of the money stays in the UT Bank. And for us, it was alien to us, you know. But the bankers managed it a little bit, but it wasn't the best. So we had a whole lot of issues. Now, then it reflected in low performance. Our profits started going down. And the Bank of Ghana also wanted us to write off some loans which was debatable. So they made us suspend the write-off of our accounts for about a year or two. And the Bank of Ghana said we should do a restructuring plan. What are we doing to change the downward trend of UT Bank, right? And we did a whole lot. Looked at mobilization of monies, how to pursue the bad loans, risk management, review it, and so on and so forth. And we presented to Bank of Ghana. And Bank of Ghana also made their input. And so we had the document. So then I was about 63, 2015. And I had actually planned on retiring at age 60. I said that is a retiring age. But then IFC and things didn't allow me. So 63, and I had all these, the bank had all these problems. So I told my board that, listen, we've looked everywhere to try and put a restructuring plan. The only place we haven't looked is me, the boss. Maybe some of the problems coming from me, because the company is a changed company. And it took some convincing before the board agreed that, okay, fine, if I want to go. And I said, yeah, we should go. But at the time, I must say that because the bank wasn't in a good position, it wasn't able to attract maybe the right caliber of people. So I left, and the COO at the time, the board appointed him to be the CEO. And that was about almost 2 years to the day that the bank was collapsed by the government. So I stepped down to save the bank, if anything could be done, because I felt that I was doing everything, and for once things were not going the way I saw it. I was older, I stayed there too long, and therefore, let me give it a chance. That's how I stepped down. I stepped down to give the bank a chance.
What's the problem with if there was one thing you could say, Was it like a short-term liquidity squeeze? What was happening? And I mean, there are conversations around the fact that you also had like investors coming on board, trying to inject some capital. You know, if there's one thing you could say, that if we got this thing,
You got what?
if we got this thing, if there's one thing you could say, like if we got this thing, things would have been completely different for the bank.
Well, I think let's go away from what the bank was doing at the time, because we're trying to do a restructuring plan and all hands were on deck. Now, part of the restructuring plan was to inject capital, additional capital, because our profits are gone and we made losses, therefore we need to beef up the capital. So we looked for an investor. And then I took the investor to Bank of Ghana. And we all discussed the investors program, everything. So Bank of Ghana tells the investor that, okay, we'll evaluate your investment proposition and whatever, and we'll let you know. If it's positive, we'll let UT have an AGM, because we're a listed company, so there are a lot of shareholders, public shareholders. And then they do an emergency general meeting to inform whatever. So normal channel. Now, what I did not disclose at the time was that we had a plan B. Plan B was we had an investor who was trying to buy into UT Holdings, that entire structure, including the bank. And I don't want to say that, oh, we have this and we have this. So I said, okay, wait, let them go through this. If they say they don't like it, then we can put the second one on. So I was quite confident that we're going to get out of this somehow, because Bank of Ghana accepted one investor. We had a second investor in the wings. And then I was on my normal weekend. It occurred to me, Monday morning, I heard that the government had shut down UT Bank and Capital Bank. And I said, okay, fine. A bit of a shock, but let me go and ask the governor why they should do that, knowing that they were in discussion with us. And up to today, the letters I wrote, the efforts I made, nobody has ever bothered to answer. And I left it. And of course, it had a big toll on the whole group, because once UT Bank was out, there was a run on all the other UT companies. And no company can survive a run. Because when you have monies from investors, some goes into building, into materials, into this, and all of that, they all want their money. How do you liquidate and give them the money? So then holdings then suffered. And we had to sell properties, even land banks that properties had, they had to sell to pay some people. I'm sure we still even owe some people. So that's how things ended. And I had to live. I prayed to God and I said,
I have a question for you.
You use me for all these things, and then it's come to this. So what's next?
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I would want you to be very honest with me.
Don't worry, I'm always honest. Anybody who will say, trust me, or honesty, they are not trying.
Genuinely, how did you hold up?
How did I?
Hold up. When it all came to a halt. This is your life's work, so to speak.
Yeah.
You spent most of your adult life building this thing from nothing to something. And it goes bust the way it did. How were the initial, say, first 3 months like? Did you fall into depression?
I understand what you say. I've been asked several times. You see, I live a life of minimalism. What I mean is, I don't even consider myself that special or important. I'm one out of 8 billion people in this world, or in Ghana, one out of maybe 34, 35 million people. I'm not better than anyone. I probably have been favored, considering myself and thinking I'm better than other people. But if you are favored, it's a responsibility to make sure that you change the lives or impact on the lives of those who are less favored. Around all this time that I was CEO, Moses Perez CEO, and Johnny Walker, and this and that, I had one shoe. I had one watch. I had a car that I drove myself most of the time. I had one house. I didn't have people didn't know I don't have properties in Accra. I was ran a company that was employing people, benefit people, who were doing things, benefit people, and I was okay with it. So if at age 63, when you've done all these things, God has blessed you, or with His grace, you're able to do it, and for some reason, the same God says, take a break. You take a break. And interestingly enough, since I'm always having one shoe, that's one shoe I can buy if it gets bad. And one car, God will, I can always have one car. And so I just sat back and said, okay, fine. Life has to change. And, when I left the bank, one thing I did was to sell my big house at Nkrumah Regime. It was big, with swimming pool and even a basement for nightclub and wine cellars. I just sold it. I didn't need it, but I had excess money, so that's why I probably deployed it for that. As soon as I see things were not good, I sold it. And I live a life, I'm very, very happy, and I feel very blessed because I'm healthy and I'm a happy person. And I think that's what God has blessed me with. See, the thing and my belief in this world is we're only here to make the world a better place. That's why the Creator put you here. If you're not here if it doesn't emphasize that you can make the world a better place, He won't put you here. That's the only reason why a Creator will create something. He creates something to make His life or His creation better. So it's not about what we acquire. It's not about what we become. Because you will die and leave those things. So why are you putting so much emphasis on it? But what you can do to make your life worth it and to make the Creator happy is to make sure you impact people's lives and make it a better place. Period. And I think when I look back at it, I say, God has used me for a whole lot of things. So, and with the help that He's giving me and my position, I think He has more for me. That is why, after all these things, I sat back and I said, okay, so you are alive, you are kicking, you're not just going to play golf and that's about it. That's not what life is about. What can you do for the system? And straight away, what I know is I've had huge experience. I've led a very serious life. I've been around for a long time. And with all the expertise that I gained, UT that, at least I have to give it back to the system so people will learn from it and make the world a better place and be able to develop on it. So then I started to write the books about the UT story for the young and up-and-coming entrepreneurs and all those things. And I also go out and give some lectures and things that I formed the foundation. And the reason why I formed the foundation is that, as you know, you are trying to think about Ghana's problems, and it always comes back to the kind of leadership that we have. Because with the right leader, we can change. But a leader with the right mindset, a leader who loves people, a leader who knows that he's here to make people's lives better and make the world a better place, a leader who is God-fearing, a leader who cares about other people, a leader who is honest and transparent and open. Because your life, if God puts you as a leader, it means He wants you to actually lead and pick these people up, everybody up. And that kind of leadership is not taught anywhere. Probably a bit in churches, but the churches themselves, sometimes the pastor himself is something else, So I said, listen, this leadership is going to actually get people and infuse or infect them with the values that we need to change the narrative for this country and for Africa. And that's what I'm about. It's a huge task, but we'll bite as much as we can. And hopefully, God will use some of these leaders to change our narrative.
What a life, Captain. If you could summarize your life, or more or less summarize these 3 books.
These 3 books don't touch my life proper. This is beauty.
It's easy. If you could summarize your life in a sentence or in one word, age 73, all these highs and lows and ebbs and flows and top and busts. If you could summarize your life in a sentence, what do you think it would be?
I've been blessed. I always say so. I've been blessed too much, if I should extend it.
Captain, thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Talking to you is like a dream come true. I really pray that this new phase of your life will yield the fruits God has intended it for it to yield. and just so many lessons to pick from you as a man. Hopefully this relationship I'm cultivating with you grows, and I can get to visit you from time to time and just listen to you talk. There's just more to explore in that regard. And so thank you so much for your time.
It's been my pleasure. I mean, it's given me the avenue to actually talk to people who probably couldn't have heard from me. And if you need me again, I'll come.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So, community, this was our conversation with Captain Retired Kofi Amoabeng. And as the mantra remains, just build something. Idua.